Okay, so yeah, welcome to this session on improving meeting facilitation with nonviolent communication. I'm excited about your interest and about having you here and spending this time with you. I think it's a very magical topic, I'd say even. I'm so passionate about both fields, nonviolent communication and sociocracy. Yeah, so let's say just a few words about me. I'm a certified trainer for both, for sociocracy and nonviolent communication, and I love to combine them. And yeah, it's just really powerful. And I think they're so alike in their intention. And there's a beautiful video of Jerry, which I would also like to recommend on YouTube about how similar they are in many ways. And yeah, so I'm working as a trainer, consultant, and coach in various types of organizations, a lot with community projects, also with companies and associations. And I've always been interested in how humans cooperate, both bilaterally as well as in bigger systems. So yeah, I have a background in political science, biology, public health, and literature. And yeah, I think it is all about this question, like how do we organize ourselves? How do we cooperate? How are we in touch with each other? And also communication is something which is really important to me, and I think which kind of knits it all together. So I do think that sociocracy can really deepen and learn a lot from nonviolent communication, because it brings a certain attitude you might not automatically find, for example, in feedback processes, where it's maybe still very common to say, yeah, I think you're just quite unreliable. And this is, yeah, I think really hurtful and a lot of violence if you look from a point of view from nonviolent communication and this, and it would be absolutely in line with the process as such. So I do think you can really add a lot to the intentions of sociocracy, of really hearing everybody's voice and of finding solutions which work for everybody involved, when you also are familiar with nonviolent communication, and particularly as a facilitator. Yeah, so I also worked in Asia for 7 years. My partner's also Asian from Nepal, and I also spent time in Kenya. So I'm also quite interested in those intercultural differences when it comes to yeah, working. And I'm often surprised how similar we are in the end. And I worked a lot with nonviolent communication also in Cambodia, for example, and also in Nepal. Okay, so I'm active in the German Sociocracy Center, Soziokratiezentrum Deutschland, in the board and all the circles. And let's jump to the actual topic. So nonviolent communication. I would like to get a brief impression, like how familiar are you with this topic? So maybe you can show me like one finger when you say, okay, I'm just interested, and 5 fingers if you say, maybe I'm even able to kind of already share it with others. Okay, oh yeah. Many fingers up. So that's beautiful for me, because obviously I cannot give an introduction in depth to sociocracy, and nonviolent communication in 45 minutes, and also come to the topics I've announced. So just briefly, in a nutshell, what I find important. So yeah, NVC I think is so popular because it is good in successfully showing us ways to build strong connections. And it does this by showing us how we can really authentically express what matters to us. And at the same time, it really supports us in listening to what matters to others in order to truly understand them. So really empathy is something you can absolutely boost with being aware of nonviolent communication, of trying to connect to feelings and needs of other people. Looking for solutions which meet everybody's needs. This already maybe sounds like sociocratic consent decision making, because I guess this is what we're ultimately doing when we have those opinion rounds. And I'm saying opinion rounds because I learned sociocracy from Sociocracy for All mainly. I also did my trainer certification with them. And at the same time, I'm also familiar with how sociocracy is taught in Germany and Austria, Switzerland. And you might know that we love to have a second opinion round. Most trainers have a second opinion round. Yeah, so in both of them, we are really trying to reveal what is actually the opinion, the suggestion, but also what is behind it. And I think this is particularly easy if you're familiar with nonviolent communication. But let's come to this in a bit. So what do we try to focus on is observations, like what have you experienced, like what are you reacting to basically, what have you heard, what have you seen, feelings and needs. So how do you feel about what has happened and why? So the why, the cause is actually the need. Yeah. So you would say something like, yeah, I'm so helpless. I would really love some support. Mm-hmm. So, and the last, the fourth step of nonviolent communication is the request, in which you express a strategy. You suggest a strategy. What could be done to nourish the need which is not fulfilled for you in this moment? So this is really in a nutshell, but I would like to at least mention those four steps briefly. And I think in the core, it's really this combination of feelings and needs. Needs is really the new element which nonviolent communication, I think, has brought to our awareness. And yeah, which I'm so grateful for, because it helps us to understand situations, particularly when it gets difficult, at a deeper level. What matters to me? Why am I actually so upset? Because important needs of mine are not met. And how can I connect to others who maybe do things I absolutely don't understand, but at the level of needs, which needs they're trying to meet by what they're doing, I have very good chances of understanding the needs behind that. So let's look at this. I'm also fascinated how close this concept of nonviolent communication is to the definition of emotional intelligence, which has really those both directions to, on the one hand, know yourself and care for yourself well. And I think nonviolent communication is very powerful with this. I've given many classes also to parents who have kids who cannot even talk yet. And still they say for them, the course was so powerful because they've changed the way they talk to themselves. So this is very touching for me. Like how do you hold yourself with how much empathy, self-care, love, and I think particularly for parents, it's easy to kind of really concentrate on their children, what do they need, but often their own feelings and needs are kind of more in the background. So it's very strong in this way. And as I said already, it really helps us to empathize with others, which is very helpful even when we want to come to joint decisions with Sociocracy, for example. Okay, so all these these two components allow us to relate, to communicate, to reach agreements, and connect positively and respectfully with others. So really, emotional intelligence is what inspires successful and satisfying cooperation. And I'm going to show you some highlights of what I also share in a more detailed course, 7-evening course I offer, how to use nonviolent communication really to boost self-organization, and particularly focusing on leadership. So what does it mean to be in coordinating positions, either in a top-down environment or in a sociocratic environment where you formally don't have power over? And then facilitation, what I'm going to talk about today, as well as feedback processes. Okay, and I would like to at least mention it once, it might come up later, but it's so important that it's absolutely not about the words, it's all about the attitude. And probably if you are a bit familiar with nonviolent communication, that's not surprising, but it's so important to mention it and to be clear that this is something you can learn. It's also something I appreciate about nonviolent communication, that it is so specific. And at the same time, it's not enough to just speak the words, but it's really this attitude, I matter and you matter, and our needs are equally important. And I'm willing to really also do my best to see that your needs are met. It might not be me in a certain situation, but I value your needs the same way I value mine. And this is really powerful. Okay, so needs, everything a person ever does is an attempt to meet needs. So we could say the needs are the why behind our actions. So for example, if you're attending a training, maybe learning and growth are needs you're trying to meet, or inspiration, or maybe it's cooperation, either because it's a training which might boost your competency in cooperation, or maybe because the training itself offers areas in which you can cooperate with your colleagues and maybe just deepen your connection with them. Community might also be a reason you're trying, a reason why you're attending a training. And genau. Same, closing the door behind yourself at work. You might need space for yourself. Maybe you can only really concentrate when you have some peace and quiet. So it's about effectiveness and so on. And obviously, also there are needs behind our wish to make decisions in a sociocratic way. And I would like to ask you, can you guess which needs, and I will show you a needs list in a second, which needs might you be trying to fulfill when you decide to make decisions by consent, or when you decide to work with sociocracy? And I would like to invite you to write your responses in the chat. And this is the needs list. Maybe you would like to have a look at it. There are even some more. I try to reduce them so that they all fit nicely on the screen. Which needs might you be aiming to fulfill when you use consent decision-making or sociocracy as a governance model? Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Equality, fairness, belonging, inclusion, participation, order. Interesting. The structure you value in this perspective, to be heard. Community, equity, trust. Yeah, I can I can you see you're already really closely aligned or aware of the intentions of sociocracy. I would really subscribe to all of what I've seen so far. And we might have different intentions, no, different needs we are trying to nurture by making decisions in a certain way. So obviously there's no right and wrong, and for each one of us it might be slightly different needs, and at the same time I would assume there's a big overlap: being heard, understanding, inclusion. Yeah, I guess I will have a look at this later when I advertise for sociocracy again. So powerful. Okay. Any questions which came up until now? No. Okay. So let's jump further, because obviously I'm still giving you an overview. So even when somebody shouts at us, when somebody blames others, then obviously even then we know that it is an attempt to meet valuable needs, and this really helps us to be willing to connect to this person, even though it might be intimidating, and we might want to maybe withdraw. So if somebody shouts at us, does anybody have an idea which needs he or she might be trying to meet? Obviously, can be many, but some things are quite likely when somebody's shouting, or maybe more likely than others. Yeah, to be heard. Interesting, no? Sometimes it's also peace and quiet, which are a bit counterintuitive. To be understood, exactly. Yeah, when somebody has these strong emotions, then you already know that the needs which are not met for this person in the moment are quite, strong and important for the person. So there's really a level of suffering here. There's an urgency. And so if somebody shouts, if you're familiar with nonviolent communication and willing to connect and find out what is the underlying need behind what the person shouts, then it is changing the whole setup, because obviously we are used to react to aggression with either counter aggression or with flight, like we kind of withdraw or shut down. So basically, it really helps us to stay in connection. And it doesn't mean that we understand a need which is underlying this behavior. It doesn't mean that we accept it. So that's a very important distinction. Some people fear, okay, a nonviolent communication means, oh yeah, there's some beauty in everything, so I can now do whatever I want, or other people can do with me whatever they want. No, this is absolutely not the case, but it's really connecting to this need so that we can jointly look for ways which also meet my needs in this situation, needs for security, needs for being treated in a constructive or caring way, needs for clarity. I really want to understand what's going on here. Okay, so if you treat others this way, if you're willing to connect also in difficult situation, then this will really improve your interpersonal relations and really knit your team also closer together. And I think as a facilitator, you are in a kind of multiplier role, like you really have a strong influence on the team dynamics. So if people kind of act in a difficult in question marks way, then I think if you as a facilitator already with your body language, sound of voice, but also how you react to the person can show it is okay also to behave in a way which is maybe not the norm here because somebody is so upset, then this can really change the complete way you as a group deal with the situation. And let's look at one last definition of needs, and that they are life, energy, a quality we cherish, a longing, something which doesn't include persons or specific actions. And that we also understand it is something, if people have received empathy, you can really also tell from their body language, from the way they hold themselves, and that they basically have some completion. Yeah, there is some kind of peace. And even if this doesn't mean that these needs are already met, but still it is a quality to understand yourself and to have some clarity about what you need. Okay, so I'm jumping a bit now just because I want to really make sure we get to the core topics, and we might go back later. So consent process. What I really can recommend based on many years of working with this is something a colleague of mine, Stefan Voth in Germany, and me came up with, that we ask the question in a different way for the first opinion round. So we don't ask what is your first feeling, which is often taught in Austria, or maybe what do you suggest when you're just asking basically for opinion. Some people also ask, what is your opinion? I think it's very powerful to ask what matters to you, which means which qualities are important to you when it comes to finding a solution to this problem, maybe, no? Or when it comes to making rules around having dogs in our community project, for example. So I really invite people to kind of connect to their needs, like which qualities do I really value around this topic? Is it maybe security? Is it cleanliness? Is it that I really enjoy seeing kids grow up also close to nature, which also implies having animals around? Is it something that I think this could be a field in which we really experience shared responsibility, a community spirit? So I think it's powerful to ask it this way and combine this. Yeah, so basically I ask, as I already, I think, described, for needs, for qualities. So you might be familiar with this idea of tensions, that you realize that there's a tension, which means that there's kind of a discrepancy between how the ideal situation could be and how the actual situation is. And then you're trying to kind of find which qualities could we kind of nourish more than we currently do it, if you kind of review a process, for example. And I'm aware that Sociocracy for All has this element also. They call it the need statement, and they often have it as the beginning of a consent decision-making process. Maybe not often, because I think they also write in many voices one song that if you kind of really want to first kind of remind yourself of the common ground, then it is helpful to start with needs. But I think in the regular day-to-day practice, they don't always do this. It is more kind of a decision as a facilitator to add this phase before you start with the opinion rounds, obviously after you've clarified the topic. So I like to ask what matters to you. In German, it's even a bit easier. It sounds more natural. Was liegt dir am Herzen? We ask in German, like basically what is close to your heart around this topic. I think in English, it sounds a bit odd. I asked my Nepali partner, and he lived in the US for a long time. He said I wouldn't phrase it this way. And then at the same time, I recommend asking, what do you think we could do? So this is a strategy level. Obviously, the fourth step of nonviolent communication, if you see it through this lens now. So what could we specifically do to basically nurture those qualities which we have understood are important to us? And I like to combine those two because usually we are at different stages. Some people are very clear about what matters to them, the qualities they're trying to look for. So for them, when they hear dogs, immediately their security light basically is lighting up, like a feeling saying, oh, wow, like an important need might be at risk, is security. So I better voice this. And others basically are very close to strategies. So they have clear ideas how this dog policy could look like, what elements should be part of it. And did somebody raise their hands? No. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Jonas, if you could look a bit, because I cannot even see everybody at the same time. Thank you so much. You're easy to see with your beautiful bright stripes here. That helps me a lot. Okay, so yeah, it is helpful because you basically invite people to share from where they are, but you also kind of invite to look deeper. So particularly for people, let's look at the examples. So second question is inviting this level of, or this what do you say? It's inviting strategy. So something I'm suggesting or requesting. No, you know that the fourth step of nonviolent communication is called request. So this is an invitation to focus both on needs and strategies, and feelings are also welcome, but they're not enough. I've often been in situations when I learned or when I was in trainings I participated in German context, where the facilitators really invited this opinion round with what is your first feeling, that we had a lot of feelings, but basically there was not a lot of substance yet. And we know feelings are connected to needs. So it was still very unclear, why does one person feel maybe stressed out about this topic, and another one is maybe hopeful, and the third one is whatever. Like there was very little substance to then start the second opinion round. So it's very helpful to have both this invitation connect to what matters to you. So you're both welcome to say, I really value cleanliness, for example, or for me, shared responsibility, if we could kind of nourish this in a dog policy, that we also take care of dogs, kind of in a shared responsibility type of way that would really kind of make me happy, then this is helpful. And at the same time, let's look at the next slide. Sometimes
Kathrin?
people are,
Kathrin? There was a question in the chat. Are you talking about the quick reaction round in consent decision making, or
No.
are you doing two? No.
I'm talking about the opinion round. So basically, when you come up with the full process, the long process, when you actually come up with a proposal by going through two opinion rounds. Obviously, sometimes one is also enough if you're very close to a proposal. And yeah, it reminds me that also in Sociocracy for All, they often work with already a proposal which is on the table, and then there's just one round of reacting. But what we teach also as an alternative, which is also very valuable, if you want to really have an ownership, then it might be really worth the time to jointly come up with this proposal, to not have one person or a small group come up with it, but that you really ask each and everybody, about this dog policy, for example. In my experience, this is such, maybe surprisingly, but this is such an emotional topic that it makes sense, if your group is not really big, to really listen to everybody on this at least once. Then you can still maybe come to a decision with a smaller group. But I'm describing this first open opinion round where people first express what they think should be done. But in my recommendations, or if you follow my recommendations, also why they actually think this is a good idea. Does this answer the question?
I'm not sure. Is it then in proposal forming that you mean? When you're creating a proposal, usually you first say the dimensions, and then you go to proposal shaping where you have the strategies. Is it this round where you have the strategies?
Yeah, dimension, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. In dimensions, we often don't even do in the German-speaking context, but I'm trying to introduce it because I'm so convinced by it. So dimensions, basically, which questions would we like to answer with a complete proposal? And then we come with answers, basically. And as I said earlier, I can also recommend, in many instances, it's very powerful to have a second round where people actually respond. Basically in this spirit of, after hearing what I've heard, what do I think could really be a good way forward? Because after the first round only, I know what matters to other people. So if I just have one opinion round, then there's not this beauty of creating synergies, getting inspired by each other, really having a deeper understanding what the group, in which direction the group is heading. So proposal shaping, and I can even recommend 2 rounds. And I really like those 2 cues at the same time in the first round. And in the second round, basically we ask, after all you've heard, what do you think could be a good way forward? What do you think we could do? Do you already have ideas how a solution could look like, which could work for all of us here? Because I also like to use this opportunity to really tap into this collective intelligence and not leave this whole sometimes tedious task of coming up with a proposal only to the facilitator. But I do it as an invitation. So if somebody doesn't have an idea how all this could already fit into one picture, it's absolutely fine. I don't put pressure on people, but I say maybe one of you already has an idea how a solution could look, which could be supported by all of us here after hearing what you've heard in the first round. Okay, let's continue. So I think it also becomes a bit clearer here. So the effect of doing this, of asking those questions, is obviously connecting to the actual intentions you're trying to pursue by suggesting what you suggest. And it can also help you to become more specific, because I've both been in rounds, opinion rounds, proposal shaping rounds, where people are very kind of abstract. And for example, here I put 2 examples here. So people might either say things like, I think we should set rules which ensure mutual respect and cleanliness, which is nice to know, obviously. I just said how important it is to become aware of what our needs are and our intentions. And still, it is not enough to kind of form a proposal on this basis. No, then I have a proposal. The community agrees that it's important to have cleanliness and mutual respect, and nobody knows what the actual agreement is. So this is where it helps to have this question of nonviolent communication. Is it clear, like what the person is suggesting, observable behavior we would like to have in this last step in the request? So in nonviolent communication, we don't say, I need respect. Could you please respect me? Because we are so aware that for all of us here, being respected means a completely different thing. If I ask you, all of you now, to show me respect, what would you do? In Nepal, they always do this, and it's funny. I think in our culture, we don't have a gesture which so nicely expresses it, but it makes it clear how not helpful it is to stay at this abstract level, because then it's not clear how our agreement about dogs could look like, and we cannot even check if everybody has consent, because everybody will agree to that these needs are important, but it becomes really important, or it is important to really come up with clear agreements. What are the next steps? And yeah, how do we want to deal with dogs? Where are they allowed? Do they have to walk on leashes or not? Yeah, can they come into the common rooms? Can we have as many dogs as we want, or should there be a maximum number, and so on? So as a facilitator, if you're aware of those two levels, let's say, or layers, you can really realize, oh, one person is really just saying it has to be this way. It is clear that there's no way we can allow dogs in any of our common rooms. I might easily have that statement. And this obviously narrows our, we call it solution corridor. I'm not sure if you say this in English too, but yeah, basically it makes it a lot more difficult to find a solution than if you help this person to realize what is actually behind this. For example, security. And then it might be a lot easier to maybe find other strategies which don't kind of exclude dogs from all the common rooms. Maybe if they're on a leash, maybe even if they wear a muzzle, whatever, the person's need for security is met. Maybe there are other solutions which could meet this need once we've understood it. So this is really important to remind ourselves of this power, which lies in really understanding what is this conflict maybe, or tension actually about. Okay, I would like to continue. And so when people come with, it has to be this way, then I ask, okay, which qualities could you experience when we do it the way you suggest? And then these people understand that better, and we help them jointly to understand what are their underlying needs. At the same time, if somebody stays at this broader, more abstract level, cleanliness and mutual respect, I would ask, okay, I understand that's really important for you. Do you have already some ideas how the rules could look so that you experience those qualities? Okay, integrating objections is also something where being aware of needs is very powerful. The person sharing an objection is potentially in a vulnerable position. It might not be something you enjoy doing, and you might even fear rejection. Maybe this is not the case in your context, but I'm often asked, so how can I create kind of a safe environment where people are not afraid to come up with objections? And obviously, if people are not coming up with objections they have, then the whole system of sociocracy doesn't work. So it's really important that you can be that you can trust that people actually voice their objections. So how can you create an environment which makes it more likely? Obviously, an appreciative, open attitude and reaction of the facilitator is key here. So how does the facilitator look at the person, and how does the facilitator approach the person? Oh, is it this kind of, oh, Mao, are you getting complicated again? Oh, yeah, I mean, that was sure that we cannot really continue, but it takes time again to include you. Or is it really an openness, an interest? So I would like to ask you, do you have ideas, and maybe you can answer in the chat again, how can you nourish this attitude that each objection is a gift? What comes to your mind? Either maybe based on what I've said about nonviolent communication, but also maybe from your experience. What do you think is helpful when you want to nourish this attitude that each objection is a gift? Thank you. Yeah, an easy one and still very powerful. I think gratefulness is really a superpower. We have an objection. Thank you. Tell me more. Okay, so what I put here is everything a person does is an attempt to meet needs. So I'm very aware that the fact that somebody gives an objection is not just because they want to keep us in the loop or somehow be difficult, or because they need attention again, but that they see something we have overlooked so far, and that important qualities are not nourished by this proposal, basically. And so basically, nonviolent communication is so deep and so powerful, it really changes your way to perceive the world. That sounds big, and it is big. And one powerful realization is everything a person does is an attempt to meet needs. So it also really transforms your way how you deal as a facilitator with so-called difficult participants. We also come to this. So a no to request is a yes to a need. So we would like to discover why, which qualities are basically at risk or not fulfilled when we do it the way we have it here in the proposal. And it's also yes to our relationship, because it shows that the person trusts our relationship enough to say the no. Yeah. So now saying objection is a no. Yeah, it is a no to the proposal, but it is a yes to the relationship and important needs. And obviously, I guess most of you have experienced that usually we can really incorporate those needs, those qualities. So an objection is not the end of the discussion. It's usually, yeah, basically the beginning of a negotiation. What's this something? Something, yeah, for it is a need. For example, when we do it this way, we basically exclude families because they will never be able to participate in this at this level. Yeah, when community projects set rules for you can only be a member if you become a member of a working circle from the beginning, and then for many families this is really absolutely not doable because they are busy with their kids in the evening maybe. And so just to be aware, and somebody might give an objection based on that. We would exclude families, and is that something we want? And then hopefully we are glad if we didn't want that we've understood, well, wow, no, we have to improve this, and maybe there are some exemptions, or maybe there are other ways you can contribute to the project, but not only as part of a working group. Okay, integrating objections. Here, I'm giving you one example, which is quite powerful. And I'm also going to tell you what the solution was. This is a real life example. So in a school during Corona times, both the admin staff got full salaries, regular salaries, as well as the teachers. Admin staff also worked full time, but the teachers, yeah, to various degrees. And now there was a proposal on the table that the staff working in the kitchen should also receive the full salaries, even though the kitchen was closed. And then there was a very emotional objection to this by a person working in the admin department. I'm absolutely against this. The kitchen staff does not do anything, and they do not even ask if they could do something. Instead, they're just enjoying a relaxing time at home. So basically, you could now be just maybe shocked or think, wow, it's not fair to say this, and say something like, yeah, can you kind of control your emotions, and can you stay, can we treat each other in a fair way, and this is just an assumption, so kind of correct the person. But it's so much more powerful to try to connect to these needs which are not met. And this, in this situation, it was really this, the person was so much suffering from a situation in which she didn't experience a team spirit, this kind of, we are all in one boat. And what came out was this need to really sit together with staff from all different groups, admin and teachers and kitchen, to come up with solutions how to actually steer the ship through the difficult Corona times. But that it was a lot too easy to just say, yeah, what do people earn? That actually what was lacking for this person was this experience. We all care about each other. There's a certain kind of care. People are interested. How are you doing? They maybe see that we are so overworked in the admin department in those Corona times because we have a lot of additional tasks. And this spirit of shared responsibility, and yeah, let's see how we as a team basically can find solutions. And obviously this opens a completely new topic, and this proposal was basically at this moment not agreed on or rejected, but this actual bigger discussion could take place. Mm-hmm. Okay, I would also like to say something about the feedback process. Nonviolent communication can really greatly help us to decrease or discover, reduce misunderstandings, which we often have. I've been in so many feedback processes, which are also partly facilitated, where people come up with statements like, yeah, in this conference, how you reacted to what we said, or it was not a conference, it was a kind of steering committee meeting type thing. It shows that you're not really interested, because you didn't even take the time. And then it was so valuable to even talk about this and bring it up, because actually it turned out that the person who basically was now told that she's not interested, that there was just not enough time, that there was so much on the agenda that she already feared in this situation it might be perceived in this way, but actually later on there was this willingness of her to understand why people were not supporting her ideas on that. So basically, not sure if it got really clear from this example, but very often we just think that the world looks the same for the other person. And then we discover, oh no, there was a misunderstanding about what we had agreed to do, for example, or when, or how, or in which speed. And then it's really helpful to be aware of this observation thing, that you start with, yeah, I remember that we plan to repeat our open selections for the facilitator role every half year. And now I'm really frustrated we haven't done it, or I'm kind of disappointed, whatever, because I so much value all the qualities which come with a regular selection, and so on. And but then it might be a moment already you realize, oh no, maybe that was not the agreement, at least not the shared understanding of everybody involved. This is one. And then obviously big thing is taking out the violence, which is often so strong in feedback processes. I think this is why we often fear receiving feedback, because we fear being labeled, we fear being judged, and it's not comfortable if somebody tells you what you are or how you are. And even receiving kind of statements like, you did such a good job, it does feel top down. And you can see this when you ask yourself, would you tell your boss in a top down environment, you did such a good job? No, you wouldn't, because it comes from a perspective. Somebody understands the world and knows what is right and wrong and appropriate and not, and now tells you if basically you ticked all the boxes or not. And nonviolent communication is so powerful in reminding us that nobody has access to this objective truth, and there's so many different ways of perceiving the world, and that it actually helps us to talk about what do we perceive, how do we interpret it, but then mostly about how do we feel, what do we need. Feelings are indicating if needs are met or not met. In this context, they're extremely important. But yeah, the needs are the actual thing which we should look at. Also in feedback. So if you do this, then I don't experience respect, maybe, but the other person couldn't even know, because for him or her, respect is kind of fulfilled in such different ways. It didn't even occur to the person that this might be an issue. So it helps, and it's a lot easier to receive feedback when it's not about being right or wrong, but when I heard you say this, and I felt this way, because for me it is so important, or I long for, I appreciate, I enjoy, and need, because I can connect to this need, because I share it, because I know how it is to experience support or a caring way of dealing with each other, for example. So based on this deeper understanding of needs, we are also usually in a lot better position to find solutions, both in consent decision making, but also when it comes to coming up with action plans, because we understand the difference between needs and strategies. And often conflicts arise from conflicting strategies. Obviously, we have to choose if we do this or that, but still certain needs can be met by what we agree on. That the same is true for an action plan. No, action plan is also like a decision you make at the end of a feedback process. So eye level, nobody tries to use power over. I guess I've said quite a bit about this already, how violent it is to judge other people and yeah, to blame them and whatever else might also happen in feedback processes. And a last thing I think which nonviolent communication can contribute to is to have it really very specific, that we understand if an action plan is more at this level of intentions and qualities, then it might be not clear at all what actually needs to be done to achieve this. Okay, and maybe some homework for those who are interested. Maybe you ask yourself, this is the next thing, what is it that can really trigger you when you're facilitating? Because this is also something which I appreciate. This nonviolent communication can really help us to grow, to become more aware of how we are, like which needs are particularly important for us and how we like to nourish them. And so there might be sentences, for example, this mansplaining is one of mine. When a person just says, yeah, I mean, it's quite obvious that it is this and that way, we don't even need to talk about it, something like this, I would already kind of, it's so difficult for me to stay appreciative. But once I've understood that and the needs which are not met for me in this situation, I can react to this in a lot more loving and appreciative and open way and still stand in for what I need. No, I mean, so I would really like to hear still from anybody else. I can imagine that there are different ways of seeing it, and this is something I appreciate so much about those rounds, that we also hear from everybody else. No, if somebody said it maybe with this intention of saying, yeah, we don't even need to further talk about it. So I can stand in for what really is important to me and at the same time receive the other person in an open and appreciative way. Because I also see for this person, it's maybe about efficiency. Yeah, the person thinks, wow, why are we discussing things which are somehow so obvious? If we all agree on this, we don't need to talk about it. Yes, I would even agree, but only once we see that we all agree about it. Yeah, so maybe you do this and you kind of ask yourself what you think about the participant in the moment and which needs does this point to. This is, by the way, the anger process in nonviolent communication, if you would like to look it up. And this can really help you to react in a way where you both hold your own needs with care, you stand in for yourself, you are authentic, and at the same time, obviously, you want to receive the other person in an open, appreciative way and really know what intentions are behind this behavior, which you have such issues with. Okay, so I know this was quite a lot of content, but I hope you could all take some inspiration. Maybe you could write briefly in the chat in the last moments or minutes. Yeah, what are you taking away from this session? Was there anything you would like to remember? Anything valuable for you?
Maybe you have time for one question or something if
Oh
somebody
yeah,
has.
is it? Yeah, I would love to have some, but maybe we can answer questions while people are writing in the chat. I'm also a person who values efficiency. Any questions?
I had a question.
Please.
Do you as a facilitator sometimes translate some reactions to needs? Like what I heard you saying is that you need this.
I would
To,
always ask and not say, I heard you say, because it's more a statement, kind of assume I already understood, but I would ask. I do it because it does take quite some time. I do it in moments when I actually am not sure if I understood the person correctly. So I would say, like, do I understand it correctly that you're suggesting this? And is this about this and that for you? When for me, I see I'm not really clear, I haven't understood it, because obviously it's my responsibility to come up with a proposal. And sometimes when I have the impression that somebody is in a defensive position, that they say things like, yeah, I guess you don't really want to hear this, but blah, blah. Then I often reflect back to kind of validate it more, to kind of, and when people repeat things, when people always say the same thing, then it is an indication they haven't experienced the need or they don't see it has been met, this need for being heard. Then it's very powerful to say, oh, do I understand it correctly? And it's really important for you to stress this and that. And then in this moment, but I don't do it all the time because that would take too much time, but I do it when it becomes tense, when I want to kind of re-invite somebody in the group who's kind of a bit outside, objections which are difficult to hear, more emotional, then it's very powerful. Yeah.
Thank you. Matilda still has a question?
Matilda?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering, it seems to me that I've come across times where the need was power. And it is kind of, you know, when you're trying to consent on something, you're trying to grow collective power, not one person's power. And so how do you, it seems like acknowledging that would, you know, be triggering for the person to be like, am I understanding well that what you need is power right now? And like, yeah, how do you react in this kind of situation?
Yeah, thank you for the question. In nonviolent communication, we don't perceive power as a need, but not in this way of power over, let's say. We want to rather see it as a wish to kind of create, to like self-efficacy, to kind of contribute to something, to be able to shape a solution in a way that you can support it. Yeah. Because to have power over somebody is not something where all of us would see the beauty in. On the contrary, I mean, this is why we opt for sociocracy, because we usually see all the pain which comes along and all the unmet needs. So yeah, so power more in this kind of, I want to co-create basically. And we would rather like to understand what is it that matters so much for this person. It might be, yeah, to be recognized for the contribution the person made, that it helps to kind of say, oh yeah, no, I mean, you've contributed this, and this is really an important element. I mean, this is the beauty of consent decision making, that you become so creative, no? Particularly if you use a second round. I know I'm in an environment where many people might not even be used to it, but it is very powerful, particularly for this, after all what you've heard. What are your solutions now? What do you think? And then people say, oh, yeah, actually, like what Georg said was so kind of powerful for me. And I found this idea from Ola inspiring. And so actually I would like to drop my suggestion from the earlier round. And now I think we should go into this direction, maybe combine it with this element which matters so much to me. This is the kind of conversation you can have then. Does it answer your question, Matilda?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so you either understand like kind of the need, which is really not maybe adequately considered in the solution for this person. And sometimes people also object because they so much want to experience that they matter in this context. So it's the meta level. And this is also fine because many of us come from such painful experiences of not being heard, that they really want to know now, can I trust this system? So at the beginning, I would expect even more objections because people want to experience, wow, I'm actually heard here. This is real. Yeah. And that's
Okay.
also valid. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathrin, for this wonderful presentation. Gives some more clarity about NVC and sociocracy. Thank you all for attending. If you still want to add something to the chat, you feel free. And see you in the next sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you also from my side. And if you're interested in further trainings, let me know. You'll find my email address. I also like teach in obviously German and English, and both a combination of NVC, sociocracy, emotional intelligence for teams, but also the separate topics. Thank you so much for your interest. And yeah, I'm looking forward to read in the chat what you have taken from this session. All the best. Enjoy.
So now there were some slides we didn't see, Kathrin.
Yeah, there are, but that's fine. Absolutely fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm such a kind of, yeah, when you're passionate about a topic and you're also a bit of a perfectionist, then it's hard to kind of leave out so many things. But yeah, I hope it was still. How did you like it?
No, it was very, very clear and very,
Yeah.
like, felt very efficient. Like, I think you
Yeah.
get so much in 1 hour, but yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I could have decided just for feedback or facilitation, but to some extent, I also want to give back to. Mm, yeah, oh, it sounds a bit odd to say this, but I'm so appreciative for what I experienced with Sociocracy for All. Now I also worked with them for some time in some of the circles and so on. And now I think the few ideas which maybe also go beyond what I experienced with the second facilitation round. Obviously, Sociocracy for All has really completely integrated nonviolent communication, and still like this facilitation cues are something I think they don't do the way we do it. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so too much expert talk maybe. And you, what is your background? Where are you from, or
I'm a
how?
musician. I'm a musician living in a co-housing.
Okay,
Oh,
and
I'm living in a flat now with 5 people, but going to a bigger co-housing, a cooperative, where things went wrong.
okay,
A lot of tensions around accepting of a candidate, which
I see.
noting and nobody knowing what to do. And then I was,
And where is this?
this is in Belgium.
Oh yeah, okay.
And now I picked up on this, on reacting like, what is the need here? And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, power sharing by
Uh,
sociocracy, and now nonviolent communication also. And I'm
uh, uh,
it's
yeah,
feels
it
like
has what?
feels like there's a new movement, new wind in the association. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if people are even, if it's not even about mediation maybe, but just yeah, becoming aware of what needs are important to me, and expressing yourself at this level, this is so connecting, so powerful. So you can easily also use it for team building to kind of get used to this way of perceiving things. It is difficult with people to decide about people, because there it's harder to come up with solution which meets several needs, because it's either yes or no. So selection processes are trickier for this. And still, it absolutely helps to become aware of which needs are behind that, and not to discuss at a level, I just don't like him, or in a way like you're maybe just rejecting people because of this and that, all this, nonsense, judgment stuff.
It was actually about power dynamics. People didn't feel heard before, and then they reacted. Now we're gonna be heard and block it. And it was
Oh, and you think it would have been a different decision even if it had come like 1 year later, because then people might have experienced to be, oh wow, that's tragic then for the family or person who was rejected, no? Because it's not even, has nothing to do with them in a
no.
way.
Now you can see that we can actually talk because there's a facilitator. There was no, and yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah, all the best, no?
Thank you. Thanks a
Take
lot.
care. Yeah, welcome.
Bye bye now.
Bye.